author Linda Salerno Forand, and her book is called You Have Time to Die and Go Broke. Yikes. What has happened in the healthcare system that is so difficult for us to navigate and deal with? I think every single person in this audience has a story about that. Linda, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be on here.
So
and welcome, everybody.
Yeah. So how come you wrote this book? What made you decide to write the book?
The reason why I decided to write this book is because I was a primary caregiver to my husband-in-laws, my husband who had pulmonary fibrosis. My dad had Alzheimer's. And the thing is, it's very frustrating dealing with the healthcare system. Believe me, I feel you. I hear you. And I wanted to write this book to help. And it's not only for the people receiving the health care, but the healthcare workers themselves, because it's frustrating for them as well. And there's a huge disconnect. And I feel by bridging that huge disconnect of what we expect and what the healthcare system can provide, that will help to get the best care you can, because you deserve it. I mean, you really, honestly do.
You deserve it. That's right. Absolutely. And you tell other stories. You tell a story right in the beginning of the book where you say how things can go wrong that should seem like it's not so hard to deal with. You talk about your son when he was 12, that he was feeling this terrible pain, and turns out he was trying to pass a kidney stone. And then when you called the specialist, they said, get him to the children's hospital. But of course, it was a Friday night, which happens to a lot of people. It's the weekend, basically. And how long did you have to wait? And what was that like? And as a parent, that had to be agonizing, right?
Yes, it was the person that I interviewed that had went through that.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, the thing is that when you read my book, and it's read it before you need it, that you can relate to these stories. And they're not the only one. And that is not right. You deserve better to not have to go and wait 8 hours to get help in the emergency room. That's not what you go there for. And I have heard time and time again from people how they had to wait.
Yeah.
So when you read my book, you get a sense of how to navigate that. In respect to that, you'll see a nurse who's a triage, and then, you see the doctor. There's certain steps. And to have your voice to say, no, I'm not going to wait here forever. I deserve this, care. I'm not in the emergency room for nothing.
Right. And so, like you said, it wasn't your story. It was someone else's story, because you tell the stories of people and what happened when they get there and what wasn't going on and kids waiting. And that story was scary to me, but I can completely understand, because like I said, so many people go to an emergency room. Now, one of the things, and we can tell everyone this, because get the book and you dive into things that you should do. And I know I've been guilty of this recently, but luckily I had a really good doctor and people around me. But you talk about when you visit the doctor, it's some of this is just basic, because you don't want to have to deal with this. You got to have, you got to know, especially if you're taking someone, their complete name, everything about them, the address, the list of doctors, what kind of doctors they are, all of that, right?
Yes, and what happens is that one of the things that go over time and time again is a list of medications.
Yep.
So it's really important to have that with you when you go to the doctors. And what I do was a game changer is actually, you don't have to do this. You can handwrite it. I have my list of medications, and I have how I take them and how much. And so instead of, okay, are you taking like Silvestrine for your allergy? Are you taking your nasal spray for your allergy? And they go through this list, and it's like, okay, if they have the list, and like if I hand it to them, then they can just go and look at it, and it's a whole lot more efficient. They love it. It's a game changer. And the only thing is, you got to make sure that if you have a change of medication, that you actually have that on your list. Because sometimes you happen to, like, just forget about that. But when you go to the doctors, it really needs to be accurate and updated.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, you say that. It's good to have that information. Also, because what happens when there's that emergency, like we talked about? So not just the ER, but what if you're somewhere and you got paramedics that are responding? Boom, they don't have the list of your medical records. That could save your life.
Yeah, I mean, I have my file, and I have my mom's file.
Yeah,
of like when they've seen the doctors, and like right now they even print out like my mom's practice of what their blood pressure was and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a game changer, and it's really important. And part of it too is if you have any allergies, that needs to be on that list as well, because that's one of the questions that they ask is, what were you allergic to? So you don't want them, the paramedic or the hospital to give you something that you're allergic to. That kind of like defeats the purpose.
Right.
So
right.
That's important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have stories about that. Like a friend who was allergic to strawberries didn't know and almost died. And of course, luckily they found that out. But if you know those things ahead of time, what a big difference. And you talk about things to keep in mind, and this is a big one. Why is communication so important between you and your doctor or the people that are the healthcare workers that are treating you and the insurance company?
Right. Okay. So what happens is it's good to have a doctor that you have a good communication with. That's imperative. You have to feel comfortable to be able to talk to your doctor. And what we have to realize is there's stuff that goes on that we don't realize that's important to the doctor, that he may be able to connect the dots easier if you feel comfortable communicating with your doctor and tell them everything that they need to know and to be honest about it. And I think that's where it's important to feel comfortable with your doctor, because then you can be honest about it. It's like, you keep, taking all your medications. Yeah. And then it's like, not really, I'm not taking this. But I don't want to tell him because he's going to go and he's going to get mad at me. And so it's really important to feel comfortable with your doctor and to be honest with your doctor. If you're not doing something, to be honest about it, and then, and say, okay, I'm not taking this medication, but I'm not taking this medication because, so then he can say, well, all right, let's try this where you feel more comfortable taking the medication. Or if you say like taking, right, and if you're taking the medication and it does react, the medication, but I'm supposed to take this medication, so I'm going to take this medication no matter what. Feel comfortable to go to the doctor and saying, listen, I'm taking this medication, but I'm taking this medication. It's really making me nauseous, or I can't eat. I don't feel like eating at all, or it's making me really dizzy. So this way here is like, okay, well, how about if we try this?
When people read your book, which it has such a great name, You Have Time to Die and Go Broke. Linda, what do you hope they take away from reading your book?
I want them to take away that they have a voice. And the main things that I want to take away is you have a voice. Use it. It's okay if you're saying, hey, listen, I'm supposed to have this, but you're not giving me this. Or, you're not listening to me. You're going to listen to me. I'm terrible at that. Like, oh, my Lord. And it was like one time where the nurse practitioner was like, well, I have to ask these questions. It's like, well, I need to speak up and tell you what's going on first. Then you can ask me this question. No, I got to go and give you, I ask these questions. I'm like, I need to tell you this first. And so I was like, you're going to listen to me whether you like it or you don't like it, but you are going to listen to me. And it was a case where my husband, where the paramedics were sitting there because they had to take him by ambulance, and they're just looking at me as like, oh my God, what is she going to say next?
Right.
So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Ugh, perfect place to end this. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
No, don't
feel like you can't ask questions. Linda's book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. That's where you can find it, all the places where good books are sold. Linda, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And you can also go on my website, as well as El Salerno. And you can also check out my website as well. If you just Google my name, it'll come up. Linda, Salerno-Forand. And the book is You Have Time to Die and Go Broke. So read it before you need it and be empowered.
There you go. That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being on.